So today I'm going to be kind of building a spare parts gaming PC that I'm going to be selling to a friend. And, well, these parts I just happened to pull from my bin. They're not actually an awful pick if you can hunt for them used and get them cheaply. Now, a lot of these might still be on sale new or kind of newish. Don't buy them new. Get them cheap used. So let's see what we have today. I was kind of just going for this is going to play games at 1080p just fine. Yeah, let's see what we have. So, first of all, storage. I have a 240 gig SSD. They're super cheap these days. SSDs are worth it. And a 2 TB hard drive. And it's not the best hard drive, but it works. And I mean, realistically, games will load fast enough. Motherboard, old Asus 970 something board. I don't know the exact model. It's a 970 board with an FX 8300 in it. I also have an 8350 and 8 gigs RAM. I think it's old DDR3. This is like first gen DDR3. I think this DDR3 actually came from some board that was running a Core 2 quad. Very first. It's like 1066. It's fine. 8 gigs is realistically fine, and a little bit of extra memory is not going to make a huge difference. 8300 or 8350, I'll see what the differences are. Let's play with them a little bit. Both of which are, in my opinion, perfectly kind of fine budget gaming chips. I wouldn't buy them new, but if you can get them super cheap used, like I can here, they're perfectly fine for playing games. R9 290. I have these. These are actually quite good used values. You can get these. I think got this one for like $60. Super good for $60. They really are. Similar, getting close to an RX 488 performance. Though pretty good. This one has 4 gigs of VRAM. Some have 8 though. Those are rare. Yeah. Power supply. Yeah, they are a bit power hungry. I think they'll pull about 250 watts. This system alone probably 150. So we add that up, we're at about 400. Power supply should be fine. It's just a generic 500 watt thermal take from a while ago. Is it the best? No, but I mean, it works. Not too picky about that. In gaming performance, this should be able to hit 60 FPS in most modern games at 1080p with like high details. I'm gonna see kind of what they think about it. Let them play around. If they want more, you can get a lot more if you're willing to get a bit more. But I think this is fine for kind of a basic system. I'm gonna put this together, see what it is. I might play with seeing the difference between this 8300 and 8350. Storage, I'm going to see how well the hard drive works for loading games. It is an old hard drive. And let's see how the 290 does these days. It's been a while since I've actually tried doing many games on that GPU. Now, here's the system built. It's really nothing too exciting. Cable management is not great, but there's nowhere else you can really stuff it. 290 is quite big looking in there. Hey, it's fine. It's budget gaming PC. I guess what else do I expect? I'm going to go shove Windows 10 on it, and we're just going to go play around with seeing how it does in a few games, and I'm kind of curious how well this FX 8350 holds up. Or 8300, because I've heard a lot of things going like, oh, it's not a great chip in gaming and stuff like that, and yeah, looking at the numbers, I'd definitely not buy it if I was building a new PC, but it's cheap. You have it. Let's see how it does. So, here it is constructed. It's not the prettiest because I'm missing some of the front panels. I guess I could put 2 optical drives and something else that takes space, but don't see a reason to right now. Looking into the side panels, it's fine. I don't love the fan grill on the plastic. It's just like a white spot. Cables, you can tell they're not great, but I mean you can see the big GPU and that CPU in there. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. Noise-wise, I really can't hear it. Done a bit of testing of temperatures and it appears fine. So no real complaints there. And let's do a little bit of testing now that it's installed. So if I go open a program like Chrome, that's fast, it's an SSD. Counter-Strike Go is on the hard drive, so it will take a little bit longer to load, but it's not, in my opinion, awful. It's usable. You could buy a large SSD and just slap it all on there, but for a budget gaming PC, it's really not worth it if you want a lot of games. And I think going with one SSD, one hard drive, and you can switch games if you need to, is one way to deal with it. Another thing to remember for my testing is everything's going to be running in 1080p. I do have a 4K monitor that I'm using here, though it's just running at 1080p for just testing now. You can run these games at 4K reasonably well with a 290. So if I play CSGO and I just fire up practice with bots, go, I suck at CSGO, but load times are usable. They're not awful. SSD's a ton faster, but you know, it's doable. Up here I have MSI Afterburner's River Tuner showing usage. The CPU temperature for AMD processors, FX processors, is off in River Tuner. It's not actually 24. My room's about 24. There's no way that chip's that hot. Usage-wise, you can tell how there's like the last couple of cores aren't being hit at all. I don't know exactly which cores are part of which modules and how the Windows kernel wants to do it, but how it's splitting it, and you can see the CPU and GPU usage right here in this little bar graph, this line graph. So if we go in as a counter-terrorist, I mean, it's pretty smooth. We're averaging in the 120 FPS range. What? You can play CSGO with just the arrow keys? I guess that's cool. We're getting 90. I think you drop a tiny bit in battle fights, but that's not awful. Here, we'll run a little fight. Goes to the 70s. If you're on a 60Hz monitor, it feels basically fine. If you're playing competitively with a 144 or a 240Hz monitor, you probably want something better, but this is quite good for casual play. Yeah, I really can't complain about this for a budget system. So, here's the result in Rise of the Tomb Raider's benchmark. That's 4K high preset. Looking at the performance data, now that it's just running the GPU at max load, we're seeing about 93C full usage. And it looks like the frequency's kind of starting to dip around a little bit. So that's telling me that it's not getting cooled enough. So if I look at like GPU temperature and MSI Afterburner, let's make this bigger. So let's take a look at MSI Afterburner to see how well this chip's doing. So we notice fan speed got to its maximum, GPU usage, and then core clock. So it looks like the core clock's 1050, but under that cooling it's kind of bouncing around about 1000. So you're losing a couple percent of performance right there. It's not that much, but let's see if we can get the full performance with a little bit of tweaking. The system under max load, and then let's take a look at my thermal camera to see if this shows us any insight. So the first thing to remember with thermal cameras is they can't see through glass or plastic. So the image I'm seeing here is almost useless. But it does show us some informative things looking at it. So that kind of weird spot right there is the vent. So it looks like the GPU is definitely blasting hot air on it. So let's take the side panel off and see if the image changes any. So I put that side panel in, and man, that's an ugly sucker, but it gets my temps down to like the mid 80s, and the clock speeds up a little bit. Kind of just sucks some air out from here, pushes it in, and probably the heat kind of goes up and then out the back fan mostly. There's a bit of air coming out the back PCI slots, but it's not very hot. Not the prettiest, but works pretty well. It's not the ugliest system around either. There might be a better way to run that cable, but the other problem is if you want to change anything else, you have to unplug it. I don't want to be a pain to take the side panel off. And now back under 100% usage, we're back at about 1030 megahertz, which is getting pretty close to the full clock speed, 86 Celsius. Really not bad. And let's do yet another noise test, because some of these fans can run a bit louder, and wait for the fans to rev down. That is one problem now. It is a bit louder because of that side fan, so we might have to adjust that in the BIOS. But overall, can't really complain. Pretty good. I can take it out if needed, but it's fine for now. So just a few more words on this little PC build. So would I go out and buy this new? No. But if you go used parts hunting, combos like this can be pretty easy to pick up because a lot of people are upgrading from FX systems. As I showed, they're not awful in games. They really aren't, and while I wouldn't call them gaming monsters, they'll play most modern games or a bit older games at lower settings just fine. So I can't really complain about it. Now there's definitely a few issues running with using older hardware like this. So the first one is the 290. Those are quite power hungry cards. Something like a equivalent performance today could be gotten in like a 1660 or 1060, which are much lower power. An NVIDIA 780 is still quite a hot card. I think didn't run as hot though. Yeah, nothing's really that bad in either of those. The 8350 runs pretty toasty, but it's not as bad really as the 290s. I think it was like 100, 150 watts under high load, whereas the 290 was like 250.
You also gotta be worried about the power supply in these cases. Not too much else to worry about. SSD is kind of a no-brainer for me. It's really worth a couple extra bucks. Yeah, subscribe. Might do more random PC builds like this in the future.